Email is not dead. Email marketing isn't dead, so don't let anybody try to tell you that it is. Welcome in to another edition of the Nonprofit Launch Plan podcast for startups, small and growing nonprofits. My name is Matt Stockman. This podcast is here to help you build your nonprofit from the ground up on a strong foundation. And in every episode, we give you the frameworks, the tools, and the guidance you need to create lasting impact. At Nonprofit Launch Plan, we believe that every nonprofit has to be operating at peak performance in 6 key areas in order to have the best shot at success. And those 6 key areas are leadership, fundraising, marketing, programs and services, operations, and finances. So on every episode of the podcast, we talk about a topic that's core to one of those 6 areas. And today's episode is all about email, which in 2025 is so core to any organization's operation that ultimately probably touches every one of the 6 areas. But for the purpose of this conversation today, we're going to focus on forward-facing email, meaning email that you're sending to donors, potential donors, your database, emails for storytelling about your nonprofit's impact, content marketing, that kind of stuff. So when we talk about the 6 key areas, today's episode really is for marketing and fundraising primarily. And if we're taking the time to put together an email that we're going to send to a donor that's got high capacity, or to a group of business owners that you'd like to partner with you on an impact project in your community, or maybe you're going to email to your database about a story that your team is celebrating this week, you want to get it opened and read by as many people as possible, right? And so what I've discovered is that many of us are really unintentionally doing things that actually keep your email from being read or understood or even opened a lot of times. So this episode is all about some tools for you to get email, what I believe to be a very effective form of communication even today. Get that email working as hard as it can for you. Now, before we get into it, I do want to tell you about a special freebie that I've got for you. If you're struggling with fundraising, it's the number one pain point for everybody launching a nonprofit, and it really should be 80% of what you're concentrating on to begin with. And I get it. Here's what happens so often is you get your accreditation, your paperwork back, you're like celebrating, hey, we're officially a nonprofit, we're good to go. And the first thing you do is you start going to serve the people that you feel like you've been called to serve to begin with, to start solving the problems that your nonprofit was created to solve, rather than spending some time on the front end building a firm financial foundation so that later you can go do the work with confidence. You start going out there and serving, and then you end up sort of financially leading this hand-to-mouth existence because you're focused more on serving rather than fundraising, so you never really have a whole lot of financial foundation. So then later, when it's like, man, we need some more money coming in the door, you've got to pause the programs and the services in order to concentrate on fundraising. That's not a good plan either. Instead, at the beginning, 80% of what you're concentrating on should be building that foundation. And here's the good news. I got this free mini course. It's a PDF workbook and 5 short videos, probably take you an hour or so total, that will walk you through the 5 core steps of what I call the Fearless Fundraising Framework. These 5 steps, they create a proven plan that will boost your confidence in fundraising. It will actually give you some things to say in a way to lead an individual through the steps of how they might get involved and catch the vision of what you do and hopefully support you financially. The framework is designed to create more positive results for you, which means more people partnering with you and supporting your work. It's all free. Get the mini course right now just by going to the website, nonprofitlaunchplan.com. Again, nonprofitlaunchplan.com. Okay, so let's jump into today's episode. We're talking all about email today. And before we go any further, I said it before, but I think it bears repeating. Email is not dead. Email marketing isn't dead, so don't let anybody try to tell you that it is. Email communication is still a very, very effective tool if respected and used properly. Full disclosure, This episode is happening today because I've really been overhauling and looking at how I'm doing email. I get a lot of email from different nonprofits, from marketing experts, businesses, and other sectors. And I started to notice a number of different things about the email I was getting that I know is getting opened by a lot of people. And then started to look for areas of commonality in the way these emails are written, the style of them, and a number of things started to pop out. So after all of that research, I've boiled everything down to 10 different best practices that I'm going to outline for you today that will really step up your email game. It will get your email opened, read, and responded to more often. So we've got 10 best practices for you. Let's jump right in. Number one, when you're writing and creating email, before you ever actually start to write the email, do this thing. Have a singular goal of the email before you start writing. In other words, get clear on what you want this email to accomplish. That means writing basically a mission statement for the email as a single sentence. The mission statement can be as simple as this. After reading this email, I want readers to fill in the blank. For example, after reading this email, I want readers to volunteer to work our booth at the community fair next month. After reading this email, I want readers to celebrate the good work our nonprofit is doing in this one client's life. After reading this email, I want readers to come to the supporters picnic in the park that we're having. Have a singular goal to the email before you ever start writing it, and have it written down so that you are clear on what you want this email to accomplish. Okay, so that's best practice number one. Actually, number 1, 2, and 3 kind of all go together, but I've separated them out into 3 separate points. So number 1, have a singular goal of the email before you start writing. So number 2 is then simply deliver on that one point. Don't use an email to tell 3 stories, even if you have them and you're excited to share them. You tell 3 stories in this email, and then the next time you say to yourself, I should probably be communicating with our database, you'll struggle to come up with something because you told all the cool stories in the last email. Deliver on one point in an email. An email should have a single focus and purpose, and you should deliver simply on that one point. Okay, so best practice number 3, and here's the deal. This is probably the single most important one in the entire list of all 10. So if you stop listening after this, or you don't really get anything out of this podcast, take away this one thing. It is best practice for email number 3. Write it to one person. The most powerful word in any communication, either written or oral, is the word you. Not all of you, not each and every one of you, not everyone, not y'all, or the plural, not all y'all. And here's why. Something happens when the receiver of a message hears a word like everyone or all of you. Subliminally, as soon as they hear a word like that, they come up with a number in their head. That number might be 100, that number might be 1,000, that number might be 100,000, it might be 1,000,000. But they come up with a number in their head. And what they do is they now all of a sudden, when they hear or they read the words everyone or all of you, they position themselves in their mind as one of whatever that number is. So one of 100 or one of 1,000 or one of 10,000 or whatever. So then what happens next is when your email comes to a call to action, would you volunteer? Would you give a gift? Would you do this or that? They're thinking, well, I'm just one of 100 or I'm one of 1,000, whatever the number they conjured up in their head is. And they think, well, my impact is not going to make a difference. Somebody else is going to take care of it, so on and so forth. So if you don't take anything out of this entire podcast episode, take this. When you're writing email, when you're communicating with people, even in sort of a mass way, you're sending out hundreds of email all at once. The most powerful word in any communication you can use is you. So write that email to one person. Eliminate all the plural language out of it. So that's number 3. Best practice number 4 for your email. Slay the subject line and make sure it's from a person. Here's what I mean by that. The subject line and the preview text. Remember, if you see email, like in most email inboxes, you have who the email is from, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Then you'll have the subject line for an email. Then you'll have a sentence or two next to that. That's called the preview text. And the whole combination of all of that, who the email is from, the subject line, and the preview text is sort of like a billboard for your email. All of that has got to be right in order for a person to stop, click on it, and open it. So when I say slay the subject line, let's use a subject line that's going to be as sticky and attractive as possible. To be honest with you, a lot of times I'll use something like Gemini or ChatGPT for something like this. I will write an email, I'll take the body of the email, I'll put it in Gemini, and I'll say, Gemini, will you write 10 subject lines and preview text for me for this email? It's going to this kind of a person, and I want it to sound conversational and not too salesy. I almost never use the subject line and the preview text as is, but it always gives me some good ideas to increase my open rate because the subject line and the preview text are both right. And when I say make sure it's from a person, let's make sure that when you send an email out, it's not from customer service at nonprofitlaunchplan.com or info@nonprofitlaunchplan.com. You know who sends email from customer service and info at and so on and so forth? People like your mortgage provider and utility companies. You're a person, you're writing to a person. This email has got to come from a person. And pretty much every email platform, CRM, will allow you to put whatever you want in the from line on that email. So make sure your email always comes from a person, and the subject line and preview text are as sticky as possible. Okay, best practice number 5. Make it conversational, like person to person, one person writing to another person, but make it succinct. I say casual, but not careless. Let's not waste words and use 40 words when 5 or 6 would do. I'm a big fan of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And one of the reasons I love him so much is he is so conversational, so person to person, so normal guy. But you know, because that show is a limited amount of time, that everything in that program is very structured, it's very scripted, it's timed out down to the minute or maybe even the second. But Jimmy keeps it very conversational, very one person talking to another person. It's casual, but not careless. And our emails should feel the same. You're writing as a person to another person. So make it succinct, but make it conversational. Best practice number 6 is when you are sending an email that is a solicitation of a gift from a donor or from a potential donor, make sure to follow the 5 steps of the Fearless Fundraising Framework. We have covered them in the last several podcast episodes. That's what the mini course on the website is all about. In fact, if you work through the workbook, you'll end up with a 1-sentence statement for each one of the 5 steps that you could just take those 5 sentences, transfer them over to an email, clean it up just a little bit, and you've got a very powerful would you consider giving a gift email that you can send out just like that. So make sure to follow the 5 steps. That's best practice number 6. So then on to 7. As you're creating email, cut back on graphics, logos and signatures, photos, and all kinds of other things that we have a tendency to add into email to make them look pretty. There's 2 reasons for this. Number 1 is if you're just going to drop an email to a friend about meeting up this weekend for coffee someplace, you're not going to insert a photo signature logo. You're not going to put a logo at the top. You're not going to have all kinds of photos or any other stuff dolling it up. It's just going to be 2 friends chatting back and forth with each other. Our email should be a reflection of that sort of thing. Friends don't put logos and photo signatures and a lot of photos and extra added things in their email back and forth to each other. And if you're communicating with your database like friends, your email shouldn't have a lot of that in there either. I'm not saying you can't put anything in, but I do want you to exercise some caution and understand that really in this situation, less is more. The other reason to really cut back on the graphics and the photos and the logos and so on and so forth is even though most email platforms manage this pretty well, the more extra styling you put into an email, the more likely it might not load properly. It might look wonky in somebody's laptop or on their phone. And remember, most people read email on their phone right now. You're just setting yourself up for a less than awesome reader experience the more extra stuff you put in an email. So cut back on graphics, logos and signatures, photos, and all that kind of stuff as much as you can. That brings us to number 8. If you are using imported fields from a database in your email, check to make sure that the formatting is absolutely spot on. I can't tell you how many email I've received where they've used imported fields, like my first name is Hi Matt at the top of the email, and Matt is in a different font than the rest of the email. It's a different size. It looks different compared to everything else. There's nothing that says this is a cut and paste mass email that I'm sending to thousands of people quicker than something like that. So absolutely, if you're using imported fields from a database, double, triple check to make sure that the formatting is absolutely spot on so it looks like it fits right into the body of the email. Best practice number 9, before you ever click send on an email, send a test email. Every email platform, CRM, has the ability to be able to send a test email. And when you send the test, send it to everybody who can open and look at it on all kinds of different devices. Android phones, iPhones, laptops, desktops, tablets, all of them. And check to make sure the email looks great on every one of the devices. Check the spelling, obviously, check all of the other things, but let's just make sure it's a great experience on phones, on tablets, on laptops, on desktops. Then once you've sent the test and you've gotten all the feedback from everyone, before you hit send on the email, send another test just to double check. That brings us to number 10, the 10th best practice. Ask somebody to read it, recap it, and then see how close the recap is to point number 1 that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. What's the single goal or mission of this email? After reading the email, if this person is able to say, I get it, I want you to volunteer to work at the booth at the community fair next month, mission accomplished. I say this all the time, but when it comes to communication, clarity trumps clever and clarity trumps cute all day long. If after asking somebody to read it and recap it, if their recap is not close to the single goal or mission of the email that we talked about in point number 1, then you need to go back and do some more writing. Okay, so that's all 10. Let me recap one more time. Number 1, have a singular goal of the email before you start writing. Number 2, just deliver on that one point. Don't try to do too much in an email. Number 3, write it to one person. Number 4, slay the subject line and make sure it comes from a person. Number 5, make it conversational, casual, but not careless. Number 6, follow the 5 steps when you're writing donor email. Number 7, cut back on the graphics, the photos, the logos. Number 8, if you're using imported fields from a database, double, triple check to make sure the formatting of the fields is absolutely spot on with the rest of the email. Number 9, send a test. Check it on all the devices, then send another test. And then number 10, ask somebody to read your email, recap it, and see how close that recap is to point number 1. What's the single goal or mission of the email? That's it for this episode of the Nonprofit Launch Plan podcast. It's for startups, small and growing nonprofits. Thank you so much for investing the time in growing your organization. Email is a really important part of your growth and a very effective communication tool when you respect it and you use it the right way. And again, congratulations for starting what you're starting. Don't lose heart. I know everything about starting a nonprofit can feel overwhelming, and I'm here alongside you as a cheerleader and a guide whenever you need it. If you've got a special question or an issue that you're facing and you'd like to book time on my calendar, it's really easy. All you have to do is go to nonprofitlaunchplan.com, nonprofitlaunchplan.com, and click book a call. Also, remember the other freebie that's on the website for you if you want to binge all the material related to the 5 steps of the Fearless Fundraising Framework. I've got this easy-to-use workbook with the 5 short videos that go along with it that will walk you through the 5 steps and will really build your confidence. It's free. You can get it on the website. The mini course is right there at nonprofitlaunchplan.com. Again, thanks for hanging in there for this episode of the Nonprofit Launch Plan podcast for startups, small and growing nonprofits. Thanks for listening, and do not forget, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if some part of this was helpful for you, would you consider sharing it with another nonprofit leader who might benefit? Until next time, keep making a difference, and thanks for listening.